Thank you, PJ, and we'll see you soon. It is time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gaard from The Fan and the Gophers Sports Network. We've got Chip Scoggins from Football Across Minnesota and Ryan Burns from GopherIllustrated.com. We are presented, as always, by our amazing partners at Jack's Cafe. You see it on the scroll of the YouTube channel. Make your reservations at jaxcafe.com. And stay tuned because, as predicted, Bill and Jack's Cafe have offered up their tickets for the opener against Buffalo on Thursday night. Their tickets, their parking. We knew they would because that's how they roll. They take care of you, so please take care of them. Go to jaxcafe.com. It's officially game week, guys. We have too much stuff to talk about. We can't even do the fun stuff and check in on how everybody's doing. We just got to get right to the stuff.
Well, anytime you have a father-son altercation in Ireland, I want to make sure that we always can get to that important story to end it, because as I texted you, I don't remember what it was verbatim, but God bless college football, man. Even in week 0, it can't help itself.
Week 0 in Ireland, they can't help itself.
Well, and did you see? It's funny. We took our son back to college on Saturday, so we taped the Iowa State K-State game, and avoided social media all day just so I didn't, get the score, know what happened, and get home and watch it with my wife. And she even said, "This feels right. We're back, right?" There's something like with football season when the real game starts, not the preseason, because those drive me crazy. But it makes you happy. Games are back, and then I stayed up and watched I caught the tail end of the Hawaii last-second field goal to win it. And did you see? I didn't know the story with the kicker there, Dan Wetzel, who we all admire greatly, had a great tweet about it. If anybody follows him or doesn't follow him, go find a tweet. But you don't get stories like that ever. You don't get those in college football, right?
Right.
Learned how to kick off of YouTube.
Didn't speak English. He barely spoke English when he came here to show a small college, and I forgot what even state he was in. That he could kick, that he learned off YouTube to kick, and here he was kicking a last-second field goal to win it.
A lot of pressure on regular kickers that have been doing kicking camps and going all around the country and all over the world, and it, because some coaches are like, you miss it in week 1, and coaches are gonna be like, so the YouTube guy has it, but you've been going to Chip Lowmiller
Sailor,
for
Chris
50
Sailor,
years. Yeah, and you can't figure it out. Like, come on, guys. Yeah, it was great. And the other part is, for people that are watching on YouTube, we're all wearing sweatshirts because it feels like it's October 12th. I mean, it's like 52 degrees with a crisp air. Burnsy feels like he should be in a deer stand. It feels like fall, and we're here in late August. So it feels like football weather even.
Yeah. We get first fall, which is also faux fall, because I'm sure we'll have second summer here very, very soon. But I've had the windows open all weekend. I was telling my wife, it feels like it's the first weekend since probably May where there's only been 2 things this summer. And I know I'm preaching in the Minnesota choir here, 90 and humid, or if it is in the 70s, low 80s, it's been smoky.
Right.
So you can't even go outside and enjoy it properly.
Yep.
So finally the wildfires are out enough to where it was beautiful this weekend. 67 degrees, windows open, kept them open at night. I had my wife put an extra quilt on the bed for herself. You kidding me? This is what we're here for.
Yeah, it was good. It's been good. I don't mind this. I don't mind this kind of weather for sure. It would have been nice to have at least some summer, but you don't get everything you want. As I tell my kids, you don't get everything you want all the time. Sometimes you just have to appreciate what you do have. And we have a game on Thursday. Let's get right to it. The Gophers open the season. The Drake Lindsay era of Gopher football starts. PJ Fleck hopes it's a long 3 to 4 year Tanner Morgan, Adam Weber-like era. And they take on Buffalo, 9-4 a year ago, coached by a guy named Pete Lembo in his second year, former Ball State head coach, basically a special teams guru. So I'm sure Burnsy has watched all of his coaching clinics on special teams because he is our special teams guru on the Pair and a Spare. They're very experienced. They've got like the number 16 most experience coming back in the country. That's according to my guy, Phil Steele. But they do have a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball. Burnsy, where do you want to start with Buffalo? We don't need to go for Gridiron Radio on the preview, and I haven't listened to it yet. And for those that really want the all-in deep dive, go for Gridiron Radio with Luke and Burnsy. It's the best preview podcast and really probably the best Gopher podcast there is out there, this one included. So we don't need to go quite that granular, but what should people know here? And then I've got some thoughts as well.
Well, they should know that your check's in the mail. I don't know when it's going to get there for a promotion like that, but we appreciate it. I would say that Buffalo is a good MAC team. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see them win the MAC this year. I know from talking to some of the crazy diehards of Maction and Hustle Belt over there that they're expected to be one of the few teams that can compete. They return a lot of starters defensively. They have a couple of playmakers on offense, including All-J Henderson, who is their tailback, who ran for over 1,000 yards last year. Like, they've got good players, and we've seen worse MAC teams come into Huntington Bank Stadium and win football games. Now, I think it also gets into a discussion point that I think the MAC is much different than it was 5 years ago, certainly when PJ Fleck coached there 10 years ago, just because of the transfer portal, where so many of these players, such as Javon Tracy, who was first team All-MAC, who's now on the Gophers roster, most players in the MAC, if they have what Power 2 teams deem as a ceiling, will hit the portal, get more money, and go challenge themselves against better competition. And that's where a lot of Buffalo's players, who are good players, I'm not telling you they're not otherwise, chose to stay. So the question we're going to find out on Thursday night is, how big is the difference in 2025 between MAC players and Big Ten players? So they are a quality MAC team, and that's why the line continuing to stick is 17, 18 and a half point favorites from Minnesota is very surprising to me, Chip.
Yeah, I just doing some research on them. Sound like they avoided as much as their counterparts or their rivals getting decimated by the portal. They had a lot of guys. And it sounds like they had a lot of guys that redshirted last year that are going to be in the mix, so you don't know about them. I'm curious about their quarterback. It sounds like they're going with is it Taquan Robertson? Is that how you pronounce it?
Taquan Roberson, which, by the way, a seventh-year player in college football still, who's on his fourth college. So
fourth. And he's been at Penn State. I think he was there, 3 years as a backup.
3 years, Penn State. Yep. Kansas State, started at UConn. Burnsy mentioned 7 years. And I said, I recognize that name, when I was looking. And I don't know if this came up on Gopher Gridiron, Burnsy. I'm hoping that I scooped you because I went back and looked. Do you remember? Do you know what he's most famous for? Taquan Roberson.
Is he the Penn State quarterback that came in at Kinnick and just absolutely couldn't handle it?
You're exactly right. Congratulations. 2021, maybe the most annoyed I've ever been at a football game. And for those that don't appreciate Iowa, how they have won, 2021, Iowa had a good team. And Sean Clifford and Penn State are in Kinnick and just boat racing the Hawkeyes. They're up 10-0. It's 17-3. And then Clifford gets hurt. Taquan comes in. And they can't get a snap off in the north end zone. It's false start. I think 3 false starts in a row. Sounds you just do. I'm pretty sure I turned the game off at that point because I said, I know where this is going. It was one of the you couldn't, and I'm sure we talked about it on the pod because we were doing it back then. It was they literally couldn't get the play in, and then they couldn't get the snap off, and that one injury really changed the whole season because Iowa kept going and kept going. I think they ended up in the Big Ten championship game that year against Michigan. But that's who's coming to Huntington Bank Stadium on Thursday.
I remember that game because I remember we did talk about it. And we talked about in every season you get a break, and they were going to lose that game. Iowa was if that Clifford injury hadn't happened. Yeah, I told you I didn't connect the dots there.
There you go. That's the deep dive you get on the Pair and a Spare podcast.
There it is. Yeah. And but so this will be his first start for them, and, curious to see what that looks like. But you're right. I mean, with the number of players they have returning, it should be a quality matchup where people, as Gaardsy says, the observers will probably just think this is, should be a cakewalk. But the line, what do you say, 17 points?
Yep.
I don't really get into betting, but this should be a game the Gophers win. I mean, if you're at home and you have all the talent that PJ is excited about, then they should be able to take care of business.
So I went back and looked at that 2021 Iowa team, by the way. So they win that game 23-20, turn around the next week, lose by 3 scores to Purdue, and then lose by 20 points to Wisconsin. And then, to your point, they do end up in the Big Ten title game that season. What a weird season for Iowa that was.
Yeah. Well, and it should have been curtains. I mean, I think even with 2 interceptions, the Nittany Lions were up 17-3 because Clifford had 2 picks and he got hurt. And there you go. Yeah, it's like people were talking about the Kinnick magic and they do it again. It's like, no, they're one of the best quarterbacks in the country got hurt and a guy couldn't say hut and get the snap back to start a play. Wasn't dominant defense. I mean, I'm still mad about it. I don't want to go pear-shaped 9 minutes into the podcast. Let's not do it. Yeah, they do have a lot of guys returning. 3 starters returning on the offensive line, including the guy who was the 3rd-team All-MAC a year ago. Also a guy who was an All-American junior college guy a couple of years ago. Those are their guards. Their center is a transfer from Long Island, one of Burnsy's favorite. Second-team
I love their
All
ATs, to be honest.
NEC. What I'm curious about is we'll talk about their defense in a second, but you mentioned their playmakers. Henderson is the running back, preseason first-team All-MAC. But they've also got 3 wide receivers that they kind of like, and that's one thing we've talked about in terms of the Gopher stuff, Burnsy, that we're curious who's going to cover some of these guys. Victor Snow is preseason All-MAC. He's the slot guy. They have a guy they call Slim, who's 6'6", Chance Morrow, and then maybe their best receiver, Nick McMillan, had 5 catches and a touchdown in game 1 last year, then hurt himself. The quarterback calls him a generational talent, so we might see that. But can he throw it to him? That's going to be the question. And do the Gophers have guys that can cover?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing we need to find out is I think the defensive line for Minnesota specifically has got to come out and be what we think they're capable of being. As if Anthony Smith and Devin Eastern and Jalen Logan Redding, if they want to show up in this game, I think Danny Collins in his first game calling a game would truly appreciate that. Because if I'm Buffalo in this game, I just want to sit on the ball and take the air out of it and not allow Minnesota to – I think the worst outcome for Buffalo is Greg Harbaugh's offense actually doesn't sputter to start the season, which we'll see if that happens. We can talk about that. But if Minnesota gets out to a 10-0 lead or a 14-3 lead, then your all-MAC running back kind of goes away. Minnesota's defensive line can pin their ears back, and Anthony Smith and those guys can hopefully get after the quarterback. Now, the question I have is how athletic is Roberson in year 7, do we think? Because if you're a year 7 quarterback,
who's had an ACL, by the way.
Yeah, you've had at least 2 debilitating injuries to take you out of it. So I don't think he's the athlete that he was at Penn State, but they need to be able to disrupt the line of scrimmage. If they don't win the line of scrimmage defensively, I think it's going to be a lot of clenching going around Huntington Bank Stadium on Thursday night.
Well, with that front line that they have, if they can't win the line of scrimmage against a MAC team, then
it's going to be a long year. Probably
it's going to be a long year. But I am curious to see as the season goes along. We'll get a glimpse of it. How Danny Collins calls the game, kind of what is his trademark, kind of what's his, what does he like to do in terms of blitz, in terms of just different calls, how he uses all those safeties he has. He has some versatility with those guys. I'm kind of curious to see how his defense differentiates from, what we've seen from the last 2 coordinators. And I'm sure there's bits and pieces that he takes from because he worked with them, but I'm sure there's some new wrinkles that he wants to have on his own scheme. So curious to see kind of first look at what that looks like.
Well, I also texted Guardsy this, and I know it's not our listeners I'm worried about because they are beautiful and handsome people that are very intellectually smart. But the thing I saw over the weekend, even with week 0 from just monitoring social media during these games, is especially if you watch the Iowa State, Kansas State first half, that was kind of brutal to watch.
Sloppy. It was terrible.
And that's where we're talking about, and I feel like people forget this every year, and I understand it, but there's no preseason.
Right.
So the first 30 minutes of any game is going to be a lot of nerves. There's going to be some things you don't normally see. And then you saw in the second half of that game, it looked like actual college football again.
Yeah.
Where there's explosive plays, it's cleaned up. So that is my plea to the listener here is please do not overreact one way or another to the first 30 minutes of whatever you see come 8:45 p.m. on Thursday night.
But every sport, every team, whatever it is, we all overreact to the first game because we've been sitting on it for the whole offseason. I mean, it's just natural. We overreact. But to your point, you go back to Max Brosmer. Remember last year he was wild early on. You could tell he was amped up and excited, and he even said it when we had him on our podcast. He even said, it took him till the second game or third game where he really felt like he was settled in. So there's going to be some of that. But Drake Lindsay's going to be – you think Drake Lindsay's not going to be full of emotion Thursday night? I mean, there might be some wild throws. You sort of expect that.
But it's just monitoring it. I just wanted to make my plea that I don't expect it to be clean. Again, last year's opener was the sloppiest game of the Fleck tenure. I hope to not watch that on Thursday night. But I even go back to 2019 and that whole entire non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that team that was the Cardiac Kids against Georgia Southern, South Dakota State, and Fresno State went on to win 11 games? None of us predicted that. No one could predict that.
No.
So they've got to learn about themselves here in the first 3 games. They didn't have any preseason. This thing's going to be a little bit sloppy on Thursday night, one way or another. Let's just see how it all unfolds. That's all.
To that point, I'm kind of curious because you mentioned that Buffalo has quite a few returning defensive guys.
Yep.
What is their approach? Because they know the Gophers have a freshman quarterback starting for the first time, an offensive line that's brand new. I mean, do they just throw everything at him and try to confuse him and try to get after him? I'm sure that's kind of that's on their mind too, that they got to bring some pressure and get him rattled and see how cohesive that offensive line is for their first time out.
Yeah, there's 2 things with the offense. Number one, I think the most important thing is Darius Taylor is going to play. Darius Taylor, in his 2 years, well, now 3 years at the University of Minnesota, has 1 touch in the opener the last 2 years. Because in 2023, in his first game as a true freshman, he wasn't a part of the rotation yet. And then last year, he missed the opener. I'll tell you, they have struggled to run the ball in the opener each of the last 2 years. Now, they shouldn't because they have Darius Taylor, who's one of the best tailbacks. The other thing that Greg Harbaugh noted was this is the first time he's not preparing for ghosts in the opener, where in the Nebraska and the North Carolina game, they had made defensive coordinator changes over the offseason, so he had to go back and watch, North Carolina's spring game on the ACC network to even see what that guy was doing. Now, Buffalo returns 9 defensive starters, their defensive coordinator. So you kind of have an idea of how they like to deploy those guys. Now, I'm really happy that Buffalo doesn't have, call him Captain America, Sean Dolick. I didn't even know this was legal in 2025. He had 168 tackles because the year is now 1923, and it is the Roaring 20s, of which – how do you have 168 tackles in college football these days? How?
Best player. Well, Red Murdoch had 156, didn't he, a year ago? The guy that's coming in.
Which, by the way, Red Murdoch is an outstanding college football name.
Outstanding. It's unbelievable. I had to read it like 4 times. I'm like, we're going with Red Murdoch? That's
Heck
great.
Yeah, man.
That's great. And, coming out of Buffalo, Red Murdoch, he's a grad linebacker, 156 tackles, 16 and a half TFLs. He's also a transfer, but it was years ago. He transferred from Bryant, and now he's kind of that guy. They've got good linebackers. What'll be interesting is, everybody threw on Buffalo a year ago. Their secondary seems like that's their biggest question mark. They have a lot of returning starters coming back there, but I think people are wondering if that's a good thing. They don't know if some of those guys are going to play. 4 starters in the secondary return. They ranked below 60 in every defensive passing category a year ago. Teams threw half the time against them, which most teams don't want to do, right? They try to run the ball and do all that. But so we'll see what the approach is because Lindsay wants to sling it.
Yeah, and that's where I guess the way I want to put it is if we really want to get into the weeds with this, I want Harbaugh to challenge Drake Lindsay because you're going to learn nothing next weekend against Northwestern State. They haven't won a football game since the Truman administration. Like it's been a very, very long time, and they've played a lot of football games. So I need to see Drake in some high-pressure situations before they head out to Cal Berkeley for that 3rd week of the season. Now, both things can be true. I think Buffalo is a team that is very boomer-bust defensively. You look at their numbers last year, it was either they allowed an explosive play or they were the explosive play with a forced fumble or a turnover of some kind. And so that's going to be, I'm going to assume their MO again this season. But you have to challenge Drake. But I'd also love to see, to Chip's point, with the revamped offensive line,
right?
Darius Taylor in the run game. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum for 9 months now. So a lot of things can and will be true. You want to see the run game get going, but you also want to exploit what is probably going to be a much easier defense to pass against than it is to run against. So I want to see Harbaugh put some things on the plate of Drake Lindsay in this game.
It's interesting. You talked about it when I talked to, people, friends or just people in the community that, what do you think about the Gophers? What do you expect? It's like, I don't know.
Right.
I'm as curious as you are to see the run pass mix. Is it, a lot like what we saw last year? What does Drake look like? Obviously, what's this offense? Who are these wide receivers? Like, what is this offense? Can they run the ball? I mean, there's just so many.
Right.
Feels like there's it's an unveiling, like a big unveiling that we're going to see on Thursday night for all these questions that we've been talking about, because there's just so many unknowns, certainly on defense, but I think more so on offense.
I think more on offense. Yeah, I'm more curious when you start with quarterback and all the different receivers that Burnsy mentioned and the offensive line stuff and just how all of that is going to fit together, because it took a little while, like you guys said a year ago, to really understand what the offense was with Brosmer. And I say the same thing. It's not rocket science, because I've been at the fair. Everybody wants to come up during the break and talk about the Gophers, right? And I say, we'll see how Drake does. They love him. They're obviously putting a lot on his plate, to quote Burnsy, as a redshirt freshman, and you don't have to do that in 2025 unless you really like a guy, and that's what they're doing. So unveiling is a great way to put it, because and I can't wait. I know the overreactions are going to come. We always joke about that South Dakota State game when Chip came to the fair the next day and just goes, "What was that?" I'm like, it's the first game. But I think more so than the reaction is going to be Burnsy's reaction to the reaction that I'm most excited about, because I know it's going to bother him so much. He's pre-bothered by the reaction that he knows is going to come Thursday night into Friday, unless they just come out and it's 52-0 at halftime, and Drake Lindsay looks like Arch Manning. Yeah. That's what I'm excited for.
I can't. I'm trying to get better this year at avoiding the rage bait, especially when I know it's rage bait. But I always can't avoid the low-hanging fruit. I'm trying my best here, boys.
So on the Drake Lindsay part, and this will segue nicely into a Max Brosmer conversation, the quarterback guru Quincy Avery is in the news, because somebody put together, Josh Pate put together like his Big Ten preseason quarterback rankings, which, God bless you, Josh. Speaking of rage bait, I think there's like 28 Power 4 programs that actually have their quarterback from a year ago. Like everybody else just is grabbing guys in the portal, or they have a red shirt, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And Drake Lindsay, not surprising, not in the top 10. We don't need to go through all of it. But Quincy Avery says, I'm willing to bet a good chunk of change that a top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten isn't on this list right now. Drake Lindsay is so much better than anyone understands. I truly and honestly believe he's going to be a round 1 pick when it's all said and done. This from the same quarterback guru that gave us Max Brosmer a year ago. We're going to talk about that in a minute, because he had some Brosmer stuff to say about. But what do we make of that? What do we think of that? First round pick is lofty, but I do think there's it's going to be interesting to see how Drake performs, because there's a lot of people that believe a lot of good things about him.
Well, quarterback rankings is guaranteed to generate conversation and all those things. Everybody does them. Rankings in general generate conversation, right?
Lists.
How are you going to rank somebody that you really don't know anything about? I mean, people, they're just, even if you're hardcore observers, there wasn't enough inventory of Drake last year to say, okay, he's going to be this. We have to see it. I mean, yes, everybody internally is as high as can possibly be on him and think that he has just a astronomically high ceiling. But he has to show it. We haven't seen it, so it's like I don't read too much in him being left off rankings or whatever. I mean,
no.
Avery's obviously a very well versed in the quarterback world and knows it. So, but am I going to sit here and say he's going to be a first round pick? Hell, I don't know. I want to see him play Buffalo first.
Chip, do you remember the last time? Because I do, where it was a Gopher quarterback. It was in a first-round conversation from a certain ESPN
don't
analyst.
Do this. Why would you do this to him? Why are you dragging him?
For people who aren't viewing Justin Gaard on YouTube right now, he's wearing the Leidner Island T-shirt.
Yeah.
You and Pat Micheletti had those made. You had so many different opportunities to build on that island.
I still have it. I still have the shirt. Yeah.
We're gonna have to have you wear it one of these days. But
I don't know if it fits. I don't.
the
look
other
as good as I
question that
did
I'm
in
sure you two
2015.
get as much as I do, and we'll answer it one last time here. And it comes back to the Drake Lindsay conversation. Why Quincy Avery is so high on him is his processor. What makes Max Brosmer someone that's likely to make a 53-man roster as a UDFA? It's his processing ability. And that, to me, is what separates Drake Lindsay from what Ethan Kaliak-Manis and all the hype that was around him 2 years ago was Drake. And we've all talked to him. We've all done stories with him. We've seen it. And I know the time he's put in the facility. I know his ability that Harbaugh puts on him to make changes at the line of scrimmage. This isn't a check with me to the sideline offense anymore.
Okay.
So it's, to me, I can see it down the line. Now, I think we're 3-4 years away from that, and we have so many football games from Drake Lindsay to watch. But if he does have that ceiling, we're going to have a lot of fun podcasts to talk about over the next 3-4 years.
Well, this is the extent that I know Drake Lindsay. Physically, you look at him, he checks all the boxes. Like is there. In our conversations with him, he comes across as incredibly mature, like a guy who's been in the spotlight, is comfortable being the quarterback, the face of the team. He seems just remarkably mature for his age. And when you watch him at practice, there's some throws where you're like, whoa, that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a heck of a throw. But it's practice, so I that's as far as I can. I don't know. We need to see him how he handles zero blitz. We need to see how he handles 3rd and 8 throw. We need all those things. But I think all the ingredients, all the tools are there. And there's a reason why Greg Harbaugh and PJ are speaking so optimistically publicly about him and not afraid to set expectations for what they think he's going to be. It's because they see real potential in him.
Can't wait to watch Thursday night. The unveiling. We should have made T-shirts for that. The unveiling of Drake Lindsay and the new Gopher offense. We're going to pause here in a second. When we come back, though, Burnsy has a bee in his bonnet about some Max Brosmer discussion that we want to get to. That's a nice topical reference and description that I just used there on in 2025. But let's talk about our great partners at Jack's Cafe. I think about when it's weather like this, I imagine Burnsy in a 3/4 zip out on the patio with his beloved, just eyeing the trout in the little brook back there going, which one do I want? Which one do I want to catch? Which one do I want? I know he's probably going to have a rum runner that they're going to make special for him. And I just think about you, Burnsy, in this crisp fall air, thinking about the back patio at Jack's Cafe, a place that's been in Minneapolis for nearly 100 years.
Well, I'm so glad you brought this up organically because I actually just made reservations over the weekend to get myself on the patio for brunch to try and earn some brownie points because it is football season now. And I think each one of us know that brownie points count in our lives with our wives because we're going to be spending a little bit more time away from them than they would probably like, or maybe they want more time away from us.
Yeah, I was going to say, speak for yourself.
Yeah. But that patio,
and the currency conversion never works out 1-to-1. The husband dollar not as strong as the wife when it comes to the conversion. But go ahead.
There's so many different ways I want to go with that, but I won't. I'll just say this. We've talked about it for years. If you've never been, this is the time to go earn your brownie points, go to a brunch, go on the patio, go see the trout, go see Bill, and go see the wait staff and the food. I mean, it's an incredible all-around experience there at Jack's Cafe, and it's incredibly simple to make a reservation.
Well, I've been married too long for brownie points, but Burns, you always talk about the steak. So I this morning while I was waiting on you guys, I wrote down a menu for you guys.
Oh boy!
When you go there, we'll call it the 100% menu. I'm gonna lay it out for you. If you order this, you're gonna walk away the most happy person in the world. So you start off with the Jack's House salad. Their salads are tremendous, right? We ate there with Bill that time. Then I go with the pan-seared scallops. I love those.
Yep.
It has a little spinach with them. Outstanding. Got to get the loaded baked potato with it, right? And then to top it off, you get the creme brulee. You get the creme brulee.
Chip is salivating for those who.
And I would pair that with a nice Pinot.
Okay.
Go there. Tell them you want that. Write that down. Take it to the bank.
The 100% menu. Who knew you were a marketing genius after all these years? Why haven't you come to our marketing meetings with ideas like that? Amazing. I like that. The 100% menu. That might have to be something. I got a text from my brother-in-law last week, by the way, just remembered of it. I laugh every time Chip brings up the parking situation at Jack's Cafe. And I just wrote back, it brings him so much joy that he knows. And you can have all of that and go right to your car, right on site, right?
You're not circling the block 4 times hoping something opens up. You know the Scoggins rule. I'll do it twice. Yep. No, I'll give it twice, and then we're going home and having grilled cheese. Here, you drive it up. There's going to be a spot, the best parking lot you can possibly imagine, and then you go in and order that menu I just gave you. Oh, my gosh.
The 100% menu. I love it. Well, support those that support us, and Jax has been an amazing supporter now for basically going on 5 years. And they give back to you as well. And we mentioned it at the top, but Bill's offering up his 2 tickets right there in the end zone. His great parking also available. Hit the YouTube page. If you're listening online, hit the YouTube page. It's just the Pair and a Spare YouTube channel. And just drop in the comments who you want to bring. We'll do it that way this time. And like I said, last year, the Pair and a Spare podcast, we basically were season ticket holders because of Jack's Cafe. Right. And we didn't have to do the personal seat license or anything like that. We didn't have to complain about prices. So if you want to go, 2 tickets Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Openers are always fun. It's a gold out. They've done a much better job of making gold shirts available for people too, so you should be all right. But they're really good seats, especially if you have a kid. They're great. You can see right there. You're in the end zone. You're in and out of the stadium quickly. Hit the YouTube channel. Drop in the comments who you'd want to bring to that opening game. Please subscribe while you're there as well. That really helps us out. And we'll do our first Jack's Cafe ticket giveaway for the 2025 season. And make your reservations at jackscafe.com. All right, Burnsy, let's get to the Brosmer stuff. You lead the way on this one. Well, I won't even prejudge it. You lead the way on the Max Brosmer Vikings conversation, and then we'll react to it.
So, Chip, I brought this up because the news over the weekend here being Max Brosmer's kind of the unofficial QB 2.5 is the way I want to call it here now, that Carson Wentz has been signed. They traded a guy. I don't pretend to be the Vikings rube that you guys are in terms of knowing the names and the faces here. But I saw some discourse online of which made me think to myself, why are we doing this? Where it's, I sent Guardsy a tweet and it was like, well, Max Brosmer, like, he didn't play this way at Minnesota. Like, and I'm thinking to myself,
you can name him. That was Paul Charchian because I quote tweeted him. I said, okay, Charch, go ahead. We don't have to be friendly. And by the way, Charch loves the debate, so we're not throwing him under the bus. But go ahead.
Like, did we watch Max Brosmer last? Did we watch the same the same guy who completed 66% of his passes and set a program record for completion percentage? The same guy who had a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio in the Big Ten? Because I think the bigger discourse here is, why do we always have to say, well, why wasn't Minnesota any good then? I don't have enough time to talk about one-possession games and not being Max Brosmer's fault. But I understand the Gophers haven't had a quarterback drafted in any of our lifetimes. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what this kind of comes down to. But the disparaging of, well, Max Brosmer wasn't this good. I think just the NFL community screwed up with the whole process on why Max Brosmer wasn't a 5th-round draft pick, but Chip's guy Graham Mertz was. Yeah. The same Graham Mertz who threw like 3 interceptions at the Viking Stadium.
2 of the worst ones you've ever seen.
It's an insane discussion to me.
Yeah, when we had Max on our podcast at the end of the last year or this offseason, there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to be drafted. I thought for sure he was going to be. I was surprised, as you guys were, that he wasn't. And you could say, well, maybe they wanted to see one more year of major college football. I guess I could maybe buy that a little, but your eyes don't deceive you. Your eyes don't lie. I mean, he was a really, really good college quarterback in the Big Ten last year. He was. I mean, hell, he had P.J. Fleck change his entire philosophy. Yeah. He was a good college quarterback, so I don't know why we should have the level of surprise that he's performing well. Okay, he was undrafted. He should have been drafted. Right. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious right now. And hey, he's a smart player. We said that for 9 months last year. We talked about how smart he was. In Penn State, he had how many checks that Greg Harbaugh gave him. He lived in the facility. He knew the playbook before anybody else possibly could have learned it. why are we surprised? Like we've been saying this.
Well, we're not. That's the beauty of it.
Well,
right?
I'm saying we as in
I
society.
know. I know.
No, I mean, and I don't know if he's going to be there 3 or 2. My hunch is probably 3, but who knows if something happened in the opener, would they put him out there? Maybe, because I don't know. Carson Wentz is going to know the playbook between now and then. But
Right.
What he's done to impress the Vikings and impress the NFL community and people who follow the Vikings shouldn't be a surprise, because this is what he did last year. I mean, he made big time throws. He changed the offense. I mean, they threw the ball 31 times a game last year. They became a pass-first offense. Now, part of that's because they didn't run the ball effectively, but a big part of that's because they trusted the quarterback so well. And he was here 1 year, and I think we said it. Like, the impact he made in 1 year on Gophers football cannot be overstated.
Yeah, Quincy Avery, to bring him up again, because people were talking about Brosmer, because he got his big look, on Friday against the Titans, and he's been good the whole preseason. People are going, how did the NFL miss this guy? And Quincy says, I won't ever understand it. I got in real arguments with NFL teams over Max. It does just show you that sometimes they're all just stupid. Like, for as much as we'd like to think that, or they overthink it. They've somehow found, because you're right, Chip. Forget about the on-field stuff, which he's so accurate. He makes great throws. I just assumed when he got there in Indy and started doing the Gruden quarterback camp and started going over plays and what'd you see here, and I just assumed that would bring his draft grade up like a level or two, right? Because they would just see the value in how smart the guy is and how locked in he is. Yeah, it's amazing. But to answer your question, or to answer everybody's question, because Charts tweeted it and said, I swear he wasn't making these throws for the Gophers. I just wrote back and said, watch again. Go back and watch again, because that just shows, and again, Charts is fantasy football. He's doing NFL stuff. Like, I don't expect everybody to be locked in on every single game that's going on all weekend, right? When you have to do a 400-person fantasy cheat sheet every week, you're probably not dialed into Gophers Rhode Island. You're probably not dialed into Gophers Rutgers, right? That's just not realistic. We can't all be in one place at one time. But it is amazing. I think it speaks 1,000% to my observers versus fan point. And the problem with Minneapolis in general is we got a lot of people with huge followings and big opinions that fall into the observer category that didn't watch when we were screaming every week, like, you can't believe what this guy's doing. How many times did we say, imagine the Gophers without Max Brosmer last year? Which is how he, I mean, every week with what he was doing, whether it's USC, UCLA, the way he played first half against Iowa when they, played great. And then they tried to take the ball out of his hands. Michigan coming back. The Penn State game, like, he was ridiculous. So, yeah, if you were actually watching, and I don't think this is just because we're college football homers. If you're just a detached, college football, or I guess football watcher, if you actually did do a deep dive and say, you'd say, yeah, this guy is an NFL quarterback. PJ was saying it all year last year that he's going to be in the NFL, and now he's going to be, and probably for a really long time, because everything I hear, and Chip, you're there, everything I hear from Vikings people is they love the guy. I mean, the texts I'm having back and forth with people that cover the Vikings, the Alec Lewis text threads that I have with them are not family friendly. That's how much he loves Brosmer. And I go, I went through the same thing a year ago, man. Like, the guy's just a stud. But it is funny that one got a lot of attention. I know it annoyed you, Burnsy. I swear he wasn't doing this a year ago. Well, I mean, maybe not maybe that specific throw, but I mean, think about the Elijah Spencer throw at Maryland, where he throws it to him in the back of the end zone. Spencer's at the goalpost, basically. Yeah. And he just throws it to the corner, and he had never thrown that in practice. Elijah told me after the game on the field, I've never gotten that pass ever. We've run it a million times, but it's like the 50-second read
option,
and Max has never thrown it. And like, just that was probably the moment for me when I'm like, this guy's different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so how are we doing, Burns? Are you going to be all right with it?
Yeah, to your point with casuals versus, I guess, more hardcore people, the frustrating part for me is the people with the big followings, the casual, but they're casual observers, and then their opinions shape others, and I can't control that, and I'm working on changing my best with an Ecton mentality and knowing that, but it still irritates me when I see these opinions from people, and I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, yet you're spouting it off like you do know what you're talking about. I took low-hanging fruit, Chip. I have to learn. I have to ignore.
Yeah, I mean, what I always say, ignore it. Just move on. Don't get your blood pressure up. Life's too short.
However, I'll defend
Put your phone
Bernsey
down.
because I deal with this too.
Put your phone down.
Because I deal with this too. We get that regurgitated opinion thrown back at us when we have conversations like
Well, then
around.
you can, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like it does take our bandwidth to one by one. It's easy to do it here on the podcast to say our opinions and go, hey, thousands of you are listening to this. This is what we think. But the amount of times I have to have one-on-one conversations at a Lifetime, at a kid's activity that are basically parroting, opinions that are formed by Burnsy said, like where, and again, I hope this doesn't mean, I hope this isn't coming across like I'm dunking on Charch. I don't blame him. I'm just saying it could have been anybody, right? Yeah. It's just like when you say something like that, that does have weight and value. And those of us that were watching all of it was like, well, I don't know why. I don't know what games you were watching because he was fitting things in all over the place that we'd never seen before. So it is what it is. But when you have to fight back to that, like on a daily basis, that's how you have gray hairs like I do at 43, I think, on top of everything else that I'm going with.
I got racing stripes at 33 now, right here, if I didn't keep it short.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah. I'm due for a haircut. Yeah, to cover up mine. These headphones are covering up mine, too.
Wow.
Yeah, we know where you're at.
I don't care.
No, and I don't care either.
Yeah.
But you got to do what you got to do. All right. So anyway, Brosmer's going to make the team. Don't get hurt, JJ McCarthy. That's all I'm going to say. I said it in OTAs, man. Like, because what did PJ tell us about Max a year ago? Yeah, he might struggle with something for like 10 minutes, and then he figures it out. Like, because he is so smart. Like, I'm fascinated to see where the Brosmer story ends, whether it's here or somewhere else.
It's funny, as training camp has gone on, it's become talkers like, hey, is Max their second best quarterback? Yeah, probably. I mean, not to make this a Vikings thing, I didn't think he was going to be here. Rip in, no. Brosmer's better than him.
Yep.
Would you trust in a pinch to him to be your number 2? Not ideal. I don't think O'Connell would want that. We'll see how fast he can get Wentz up to speed. But the fact that he has impressed the entire organization with doing exactly what he did at Minnesota.
Yeah.
Being smart, studying it, being mature, being accurate, processing fast, all the things that he did at Minnesota you're seeing with the Vikings.
And to bring it back to current day, that's where you hope that Drake Lindsay learned a lot in the Brosmer cocoon, as I call it. Speaking of the unveiling, he's been in the sun. He was in the little Brosmer cocoon, and now the wings are out and the Brosmer butterfly. Now we'll see the Brosmer butterfly effect Thursday, Buffalo, and hopefully for the next 3 or 4 years, because he was like he did. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Yeah, he still shows up on off days. That's the other thing I loved about Max is that he came in and straight up said, like, I'm here for a year. This is yours after. Let's work together. Like, nobody does that. Like, who does that intentionally? Yeah. Nobody does that kind of stuff.
And I think Dre talked about it. He's still, they talk, I don't know, daily, but he's asking questions. That we were there one practice, and I think it was it might have been the interception he threw where Coy fell down or slipped, and he ran right to Brosmer. Like they're talking. Like after a drill, he's like, Brosmer's at midfield and they're talking. So that's a cool relationship for a young quarterback to have, and as a mentor and just somebody he can talk to on a day. You think they won't talk throughout the week and after each game? Like, hey, what'd you see? That type. It's gonna be great for him. I mean, it's great to have the coaches doing it. But to have the guy who played your position last year and that you've created this friendship with, to have that resource too, it's invaluable for him.
All right. Well, good on you, Max Brosmer, and we'll see where this story goes. Anything else, Burnsy? Did we cover that enough for you?
I do think we covered it. I also want to ask you, how many different brownstones have you now bought over the weekend to keep up with your share?
Well, I would just say everything, if you were paying attention, most of them went under contract 2 weeks ago. Like everybody that's trying to get them now, you're out of luck. Sorry, you're going to have to wait for, we're trying to we're trying to buy a new parcel of land just to the west to hopefully get some more up, because first of all, I've been selling these since mini camp, back in April and May. So if you waited until that fourth down pass at Tennessee that should have been caught, where he just drops it in a bucket in inside the 5-yard line, makes a check at the line, gets the right protection, throws a beautiful. If you waited until then, I'm guessing you got a busy signal, or you got our email is limited because all of our brownstones have been sold for a while. So you'll have to wait until phase 2 of the Brosmer brownstone development, unfortunately, because we've been selling them for months. And
General contractor Justin Gaard with the update, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we've been selling them for months. All right, now this is on. We've been talking a lot about the college football playoff and pretty big development. I think that happened on Friday night, right? That we were texting about. This is going to be interesting because I think the SEC either folded to the Big Ten or called the Big Ten's bluff. Because to use multiple card analogies, to catch people up, the SEC announced that they are going, starting next season, to start playing 9 conference games. If you remember, the Big Ten and Ryan Burns didn't like the fact that they only played 8. And when they were putting together the college football playoff plan, the Big Ten said, we're fine doing the SEC's 5 automatic bids, 11 at-large selections for the college football playoff. We're fine doing that if they go to 9 conference games like we do and like some other conferences do. We want the 4-4-2-2-2-1. I think I got all the numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
So the SEC said, finally, all right, we're doing that. Here we go. 9 conference games, and they have to play another Power 4 opponent. So 10 of their 12 games are going to be Power 4s. And now we'll see, did they fold to the Big Ten and now we'll do 5 and 11, or did they push their chips in and say, let's see your cards, Big Ten. Are you really serious about the 5 and 11? Because now it's on to you. Chipper, what do we think of this?
Well, I'm glad they're doing it. And I think it's also interesting that they have the stipulation that you have to play at least 1 Power 4 in your non-conference. So
I love that.
So that
like 6 teams have to cancel games before next season, right? Something like that.
So the conversation about that we heard at the Big Ten about, we're going to have the SEC schedule. Well, that's out the window. Now they have to play 10. So
Signetti,
I think if you're the Big Ten, you have to agree to the 5 and plus 11 now. I mean, you have to. You said that you didn't want it the other way because they weren't playing 9 games. You have to do it now. So I assume we're going to see that. I assume we're going to see the football expansion here pretty quickly. And they just served the ball in your sport. They served it to them.
Yep.
Here you go. You have to play now.
I also kind of want to get into, I don't know what you were watching for tennis at 11 p.m. on a Sunday night that got you all so hot and bothered last night that you had to turn it off.
Yeah, but, I was annoyed.
We'll get into that.
We don't need to waste the podcast.
Meeting.
But it was
the other thing.
Ridiculous display.
Yeah, if you really want to get high level with this thing, I almost wonder if the whole Big Ten leaking the 24 and the 28 played some part in this, some minute part trying to push the SEC into a corner a little bit more. But to Chip and to your point, Justin, you almost have to agree to the 5 and 11 thing now because they compromised. Yes. Now you have to compromise back, or you should compromise back. Now the other thing I've seen people ask me is, well, they have to play the Power 4 opponent. How does that affect Minnesota? Well, I'll remind you, Minnesota plays a Power 4 opponent in the non-conference. This season it's Cal. The next 2 seasons it's Mississippi State. And then in 2028, I think that would be, Cal comes back to Minnesota. So they'll have to figure out some games 5-6 years from now, but I can't imagine that'll be much of a problem with that much lead time. I'm just excited that the SEC compromised on something to the point of which 2 months ago, it was the whole Tony Petitti doesn't know what he's doing. Greg Sankey's dunking all over him. Yeah, how's that all looking in hindsight here now that the SEC compromised, boys?
Well, so I assume when they do expand, though, it's going to go to
it should just go to 16 selection, and let that thing sit.
Well, it will, but so now it's going to be on the selection committee.
Of which, by the way, I saw
which I think the SEC wants.
Some strength of schedule. What was it? Strength of schedule things are being tweaked from the committee behind the scenes, of which I will continue to say I hate that it's behind the scenes and we don't have like a BCS type of formula where it's all everybody can calculate it. Now we have to continue to go behind closed doors. But between the Big Ten calling out Greg Sankey and the SEC and this tweak that I would assume the athletic directors on the committee said, well, we're going to make sure the teams that actually play good teams are the ones that are in the playoff. Both things can and will be true with something like this. But good on the SEC, man. We get to see it just like the Big Ten, 9 conference games.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And somebody wrote, I think, a smart sentence. And now we'll see if the Big Ten was serious, or if this was just, if the expansion was just all about we want as many good TV windows. Because if you remember, the Big Ten with the 4-4-2-2-2-1 was we're going to have 4 automatic bids and we're going to make our teams play for them, essentially, which would add another big time TV game to sell. That's part of the reason why ESPN wanted 9 games as well for the SEC. They've got another game to sell, right? That's going to be better than, we name your hyphenated school alphabet soup du jour.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Florida A&M, you get South Carolina. But the other, to your point there, I thought I saw that the thing that came out over the weekend was with the additional 9th conference game, each SEC school gets an additional $5 million.
It's great.
Which,
that makes sense.
I'm gonna play Kentucky or take the lumps with LSU or Alabama for an additional $5 million for the athletic department.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, and now we'll see how quickly, because they're supposed to decide by December, right? That was the deadline that we'd all talked about, and we'll see if this, to your question, Burnsy, did the Big Ten's proposal that we talked about last week have anything to do with it? Maybe. I think the overarching theme there was, all right, if we're not going to get serious, this is how stupid we can be. The Big Ten.
Yeah.
If we're not really going to do this,
articulating.
if you think this idea is bad, wait till we show you this one. Like, we've got a lot of crap ideas that we can throw out there if you're not going to be serious and actually come to the middle on what a lot of us are already doing. I think that's what that was. Like, we can waste everybody's time. You want 32 teams, 38 teams? We've got a TV plan for it. We've got streaming services. We'll do it if you want to get this stupid. Because that's how I took last week, was we're as dumb as we can. And I'm a guy that likes the play-in part of it. I think it worked for baseball, right? We're still talking about, the Twins being, getting that wild card round victory 2 years ago, like how awesome that was. I don't mind the extra play-in, so I wouldn't have been as offended by the 4-4-2-2-2-1. But if most people think, and the Big Ten originally liked the 5-11 to begin with, right? And then changed their mind. I think this will be great. I think it'll be fun. And let's play. Let's get it lined up for 2026. Let's be delusional and get it lined up for 2026.
Who's more delusional, PJ Fleck talking about this team or Joe Pohlad with the Minnesota Twins and his? Why did you have to bring up the Twins?
Sorry, that was my fault.
Why did you have to do that to me? I'm tired of watching Cody Clemens at first base.
Why are you watching? That's what I was.
When you're watching,
I wish I could stop. I wish I could stop. I can't. Anyways. Sorry.
Nobody's forcing you to do anything. We kind of hinted at this at the top of the podcast. Here's a couple of just crazy college football stories as we go, and now I can't even find it. Here, hang on. I'm going to go to Ryan Burns' text. Man, I've texted with a lot of people last night.
I was dying at about 4 p.m. on Saturday when I saw the actual video of this come through.
Yeah, you can see the video, but after Kansas State's loss to Iowa State over in Dublin, there are 2 people that are fighting, and basically it looks like a puddle. They're on the ground. They're being separated from each other. They are wearing number 2. One's wearing a number 2 jersey. One's wearing a number 2 T-shirt jersey for Avery Johnson, Kansas State player. And the first headline I saw, I said, that can't possibly be true. And I kind of forgot about it until I got this one from you, Burnsy. After yesterday's 24-21 loss to Iowa State in Ireland, Avery Johnson's dad and brother got into a fight with each other. Both of them apologized in a joint statement this morning. Here's the statement. We sincerely apologize for our actions following yesterday's football game in Ireland. Senseless bickering escalated into an unnecessary fight. We've resolved our differences and take full responsibility for our actions. We've apologized to our immediate and extended family and now extend our apologies to Kansas State University, its alumni, and fans. We regret this incident, have learned from it, and are committed to ensuring it doesn't happen again. Please accept our deepest apologies, Mark and Anthony Johnson. I would say, don't worry about us. Make sure you're right with Avery. I don't think Wildcat Nation needs an apology.
Yeah.
Avery Johnson, your son and brother.
He's starting quarterback for Kansas State, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's too good. I just want to know what started it.
Yeah, well.
So many questions.
If I'm Avery Johnson, you think he doesn't have enough on his mind right now, being a major college quarterback? I would say, guess what, Dad and brother? You went to your last game.
Right.
I mean,
you're going to Tyrese Halliburton, Dad.
How embarrassing for that player and for them to be rolling around in a puddle after a game. Like what? There's a lot that I want to know. Like,
I know.
yeah, what started that? Like,
What started it?
precipitated?
I want to know
them?
how many Guinnesses deep they were.
Oh,
to be
Well,
honest.
that's it. They might have been to the.
Or
yeah.
was it Jameson, or was it Tullamore-Dew? I don't know what they were into. I feel exponentially horrible
Yeah.
for Avery Johnson.
Yes.
Not only does he have the weight of his shoulders as the starting quarterback of a top 25 program in Kansas State, they lose a close one, so I'm sure he's not feeling great. And then can you imagine getting the text messages that he did of, hey, dad and older brother are fighting in a puddle, and he's just like, I can't catch a break. I would also pay to see Chris Kleiman's reaction the first time SID came up to him and said, so we got a situation here, and then explained to him, and the amount of expletives that came out of the young man formerly from the same high school as Mark Hoyle in Iowa there.
Yep.
This sport every single week never ceases to amaze me, even in week 0, which is not even an official week. Yet we've got dad and brother fist over fist trying to dunk each other in a puddle outside the stadium. Like, I feel so bad for Avery Johnson, but this beautiful, dumb sport I love so much for stupid things like this.
I mean, could you imagine fighting with your dad? I mean,
like actually fighting? No.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's no longer here, rest in peace, but I can't even possibly fathom fighting with my dad.
The amount of atrocities that would have had to have come out of my father's mouth for me to go to the ground with him would have had to have been to a level I have never known. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got relationship, things that they want to clean up and they might need to work on, and no family's perfect. But like you said, a to the ground brawl. I just want to know what possibly they could have been fighting about. Like, what started it? The silly bickering, as they call it. What and how it escalated,
and then it gets to a joint statement, which is so beautiful. Oh my God!
I'm pulling for Avery Johnson. If he has an NIL fund, we can Venmo him some money, maybe buy his jersey.
Because every question. I think they play like South Dakota this week, and he's the starting quarterback. He has to face the media, but there's going to be twice the amount of normal media that there's going to be, and every question to Avery Johnson is going to be, "What do you think?" And I'm sure the SID has told him don't talk about it or whatever, but like. I'm just pulling for Avery Johnson.
Yeah.
I hope his dad and his brother realize how moronic this entire thing was. If they haven't already, I'm sure they will here very, very, very soon. But God, it's just
it'd be like if you're his dad, you just go back to work on Monday with, hey, how's Ireland? How was the trip to Dublin?
See, this also speaks to
I got in a fight with my other son.
Netflix documentary of quarterback dads. Here is another chapter in that big, stupid book. We've seen Dance Moms. This is why I continue to bang the freaking drum of quarterback dads.
Well, stop saying it publicly. You get it done. Do some work on it.
I'll expect the royalty checks in the mail.
Well, you're giving everybody your idea. Someone's going to go do this. You should go do it and make the money for yourself.
As a member of the serving and giving community founded by Justin Gaard and Chip Scoggins, I'm just a disciple, and I'm trying to give the world better ideas for you to mindlessly binge for 2 nights on Netflix.
All right, let's wrap it up with just a couple of things. Texas and Ohio State this weekend, right? That's going to be exciting. I'm actually more, guys, and I haven't watched the documentary, but for those that don't remember, this is going to be Lee Corso's final game day. And I do think I'm going to be oddly emotional about it because like he was that show and like that show, College Gameday on ESPN, has become this societal juggernaut, right? That people have tried to copy, and Fox with their game day has done a good job too. But to me, it's just not game day. And I know they're trying some new stuff with bringing in Portnoy and Barstool and everything that comes with that. But what do the kids say, Burnsy? Like, you had to be there. Like, you can't even describe what it was when you first discovered the Lee Corso phenomenon and the headgear and what that meant and how that really, I mean, we're in this TV world now of college football craziness where everybody's fighting for every single dollar that they can. It wasn't the case back in the late 80s and 90s when not everything was on TV. And we probably should have spent more time on it, but his impact, Chip, and you probably have better memories of the early days of game day, but just what that show became and has become traces back, I think, to what he did with it.
Well, yeah, if you're a college football fan, game day became part of your routine. And it's just, you got up early, you turn it on, you waited to see if they were at your game or where they're at, what the crowd size looked like, what the how cool, how funny the signs were, what headgear he would put on. I don't know if you guys saw, or if our listeners saw, the video that ESPN did, the tribute to him, where people that worked on the show talked about what Corso has meant to them, his family. I mean, if you don't have tears rolling down your cheeks after that, you check your soul. But the thing I really appreciate is how ESPN stuck by him and allowed him to be part of the show even after his health situations, and when it became obvious that he couldn't have the same level of maybe discourse or conversation on there, and the way Herb Street became like a son to him and took care of him and their relationship. I mean, it's hard to quantify the importance of college football's popularity in that show. And to me, it's undeniable that the reason why college football has become so big, I think that show had a big part of it, because the personalities, the way they traveled, they just didn't do it. It wasn't just a studio show. They went to the towns and made that town feel special. They made that game feel special. The highlights, the features that they have done over the years are, when Tom Rinaldi would make you cry every Saturday with a feature that he would do. And so I'm glad Lee Corso's getting to go out his way and being celebrated for what he's meant. And man, when he puts on that headgear Saturday for the last time, that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. And McAfee's definitely taken over his role, right? Like I know people were wondering about, some people don't like McAfee on that show. It's like, well, that's a you problem, because he's electric.
He's
great,
like,
he's perfect for that show, and that's his audience, right? The young kids now. So I think that's been a smart transition. But you're right, Chip, about the 40 wrote a good column about ESPN for all the negatives that get written about him here recently.
Yeah.
Like, they let Corso and they have let Dick Vitale hang in there, right? And and Corso always said, I'm going to be the Dick Vitale of football. And he was and those two guys, what they meant for the popularity of those two sports, I think those are the two guys.
Well, and you think if you say not so fast, my friend, everybody knows who that is. You know who it is. You don't even have to say his name. You get the pencil, not so fast, my friend.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what that is and what that catchphrase is.
This discussion reminds me of an Andy Bernard quote from The Office that is pretty famous. It's I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Yeah.
Because that hits hard, Burnsy.
It does. And the older you get, the more you remember something like that, because prime College Game Day was one of the experiences, or even when they came here to the Twin Cities. Yep. I mean, the hoopla of that follow-up to that game, because Game Day was coming to town, was incredible. And I don't know that I can echo more than what you guys have already said, but I'm just glad that Corso gets to go out like this.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets the opportunity, and I'm glad he gets it.
We were talking about the weather and how it feels like football. I mean, you can feel it if you're a college fan. The windows are open in your house. The crisp air is coming in. The Game Day song comes on, and then you just know what Saturday. I mean, I can feel it right now, what that feels like. You know what you're eating, you know what you're drinking, you know who's coming over, you know who your team's playing. You want to see what Corso does at the end. You want him to, make fun of the celebrity guest picker, which he still does. Like, you want him to say something to Will Ferrell or Katy Perry that you can't say to anybody else. And at some point he might say the F word on set. Like,
that's right.
You just don't know. So it's going to be different. And like I said, his role has obviously been much smaller the last few years as he's been dealing with, his health stuff. But, I think McAfee's going to have a similar effect. And, but it had to start with a guy, and it started with Lee Corso. So I wanted to make sure we spent a couple of minutes there to talk about that, because it is the end of an era, and it reminds all of us that we're getting older, right? It reminds all of us that, time slows down for nobody. Good old days, Bernard. You're right, Burnsy. 100% right. Anything else, guys? We actually talked a ton of actual topics today. That must mean it's football season.
It's game week, baby.
And next week, we'll be breaking down the Buffalo game. We'll be breaking down opening weekend for many teams across college football. And I know Burnsy wants to spend at least 30 minutes previewing the Northwestern State game because he's done a lot of homework on that one and is excited to tell you about whoever's coming to Huntington Bank Stadium next Saturday. I've
already ordered my Northwestern State Demons apparel. Can't wait for it to be the next place that Chip's son transfers to.
Come see us on Oak Street in front of Mariucci for the Gopher football pregame show. We start at 5 o'clock. Kickoff is at 7. Fox 9 show starts at 6. That's over in front of Williams Arena. If you want to come show me what your phone charge situation is, I definitely appreciate that. I will be out and about. Burnsy will be joining me. If you want to go to the game and you want to win some free tickets, thanks to Jack's Cafe, remember, drop in the YouTube comments who you would want to bring, and we will pick a winner probably by Wednesday. We're recording this on a Monday. We'll pick a winner on Wednesday for the Jack's Cafe tickets and parking. Make your reservations for brunch, for dinner, for lunch, date night, whatever it may be at jackscafe.com. And we will talk to you next week on the Pair and a Spare podcast.